Дорогі друзі України,
Fellow friends of Ukraine, fellow Ukrainian people, today we've gathered at a very symbolic place, Hostomel. It was here that Putin wanted to win this battle for our capital, for Kiev. That was the key battle of the blitzkrieg he was planning. It was here that he suffered the first and most fundamental defeat when our soldiers destroyed the airborne forces of Russian murderers and prevented Russia from establishing the bridgehead here. The world saw the most important. The world saw that any evil can be defeated, and Russian evil is no exception. Until that moment, several generations of Europe witnessed no such large-scale battles for independence. For too long, there was a fear to resist Russia. Now that fear was first destroyed in here, on these landing strips of the Hostomel airport, and later at many other battlefields where our people stood up bravely to defend themselves and their homes. Back then, many did not believe to Ukraine and in Ukraine, and nobody could know exactly what would happen, not just in 2 years, but in few weeks. We had fewer weapons, but even at that time, Ukrainians proved that we can fight. We will fight, that we are stronger than any geopolitics, that the unity of people can do more than any dictator. And courage, well, the courage of ordinary people can turn even those pages of history that seemed to be never-ending. Ukrainians did not betray their independence. The world did not fail, did not make a mistake, and supported Ukraine. We are extremely grateful to our friends, our partners. We are grateful to the whole world, our soldiers, and millions of ordinary people who joined the defense of our country, have demonstrated the best one may found in themselves, in their own human souls. And that is why, despite all the difficulties, all the doubts, the eyes of the world are still focused on Ukraine. Our fate depends only on us, and we can achieve our Ukrainian goals, the goals of peace, the goals of Ukrainians, and we are doing so. Russian madness will not reign over our land, our sea, and our sky. I'm proud of every Ukrainian soldier who destroys the occupiers and defends their positions, and thus defends the whole Ukraine. All Russian murderers, starting from Putin, will be held accountable for everything they've committed, and we will ensure justice for Ukraine. Now, thanks to this our battle, the world will be definitely convinced once again that nothing can be stronger than people, than nation who believe in themselves. This is one of the most important rules of life in the whole world. Nations must believe in themselves so that no one could try and destroy their lives. I'm proud of Ukrainian people. I'm proud of our nation. Let us all be worthy of our bravest people who in different times fought for Ukraine, for our freedom, and gave their lives so that Ukraine could live. Now I would like to ask everyone to have a minute of silence in memory of our fallen heroes.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you.
Дорогі друзі,
Fellow friends, Ursula, Madam President, Georgia, Madam Prime Minister Alexander, Mr. Prime Minister of Belgium, Justin, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, I thank you for being with Ukraine today, being with us. And throughout all this war, you've been with us, with the Ukrainians. I thank you for helping our country to protect our people, to reinforce our capabilities, our capacities, and to reinforce our motivation. It is extremely important to know that Ukraine can rely on such support as yours. Over the past 2 years, it was through the cooperation and unity with you, dear friends, and with all of our partners, we've managed to implement a lot of common goals. But most importantly, thousands of our cities and villages have been saved from the destruction of occupiers. Ukraine is expanding its security space and the arsenal of capabilities. More specifically, we've managed to upgrade and refurbish our Ukrainian defense industry to have the level of production of our own weapons that allows us to bring Putin's war back to its own home, to Russia. And we are overcoming all the challenges to our unity and ensure the world's ability to put more pressure on Russian state system and its war economy. I'm grateful for every support package that helps our soldiers to fight, that helps our state to change and to become stronger day after day. I'm grateful for every decision on imposing sanctions against Russia, and I'm grateful for every step that brings a fair end of this war closer. Putin must be defeated, must lose in everything, like it was in Hostomel. This is the only way for the world to win the peace. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for being with us today, for your support, and glory to Ukraine. The floor is given to the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
Two years ago, Putin invaded Ukraine. Bombs rained down across the country. Civilians were targeted, and Putin was sure he could easily take strategic targets like this airport. Russian forces tried to make quick work of Hostomel Airport, and with it, Kyiv. Well, we are standing here today because he was wrong, like he has been wrong on so many things. Vous vous êtes battus avec une ingéniosité et une ténacité qui ont montré au monde entier ce dont les Ukrainiens sont capables. Comme je l'ai dit lorsque j'ai adressé la Verkhovna Rada en juin dernier, vous êtes le fer de lance qui va déterminer le cours du 21e siècle. Canada has been by your side not just because it is the right thing to do, but because your fight is our fight. You are fighting for your sovereignty, for your territory, for your language, for your culture, for your democracy, but also for our democracy, for everyone's deeply held right to choose their own future. You are fighting to preserve the norms and rules that the whole world agreed to 80 years ago. Rules born out of the ashes of the Second World War, a war that tore apart the countries now led by the leaders standing with me, and a war in which thousands upon thousands of Canadians gave their lives. It was in the aftermath, in the grief and horror of so much death and destruction, that as a world we decided to choose something better, to secure peace and establish a set of rules where a bigger army doesn't get to redraw borders, where might never makes right. Ces règles nous ont permis de bâtir un avenir où on n'aurait pas à craindre une violence généralisée, de croire en ce qui était possible au lieu de craindre de ce qui pouvait être perdu, et de vivre notre vie de manière à bâtir quelque chose
We
de
believe that
meilleur.
this future is important, to live our lives in a way to make something better. And this is what Ukraine is fighting for. And Ukraine is fighting for all of us.
Ukraine will see victory, just like what happened on this very ground 2 years ago. Do перемоги. Slava Ukraini.
The floor is given to the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni.
Well, there are heroic gestures by few men that changed the course of history. One of them took place here on the 24th of February 2 years ago. Here, where the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people started, here, where Putin's plan to overthrow the democratically elected government in few days and replace it with a puppet government which would respond to his instructions failed. This place is the symbol of Moscow failure. This place is a symbol of Ukrainian pride. In this place we breathe history, and history reminds us that there is something stronger than missiles, bombs, hunger, or cold. And that something is love for the homeland, love for freedom, and the will to ensure a future of prosperity and well-being for one's children. A verse of the Ukrainian national anthem says, "We will give our bodies and souls for our freedom." It happened here, on this runway, among what remains of the world's largest aircraft. It happened here that brave and proud Ukrainians gave their bodies and their souls for their freedom and their nation. A nation that hope that has given soul and body in this 2 years resistance. Everything around us reminds us of what happened in this decisive battle. And what remains on the ground turns this place into a hymn to freedom. And here we are today to say thanks to those men and women who on the 24th of February 2 years ago did not run away and instead fought for themselves, for their families, for what they hold most dear. Europe, the West, are here to celebrate an act of love, because here the Ukrainians defended what they loved, and in so doing, they also defended us. They fought to give us the chance to be here today to say that this land is a piece of our home and that we will do our part to defend it. From that battle, 730 days have now passed. For 730 days, Ukrainians have been reminding us what it means to believe in one's freedom and one's nation. For 730 days, Ukrainians have been explaining us that surviving does not necessarily mean living. For 730 days, Ukrainians have been showing the world that no help can be enough if upstream there is not someone determined to fight. This place tells us of all this. Here, where the first page was written to return a future of freedom to Ukraine. So, thank you. You're welcome.
The floor is given to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
This airport has witnessed Ukraine's darkest hour. Those fateful moments are etched forever in our collective memory. The flames rising from the tarmac to the sky, the swarms of Russian helicopters flying low along the river, the columns of tanks descending fast from the border with Belarus. Exactly 2 years ago, it felt like everything was lost and Kyiv would fall within days. But Kyiv stood strong. Your courage stood in Putin's way. You did not flee or flinch. A small contingent of Ukrainian heroes held back the invader, fighting to your last bullet and your last breath. And you managed to stop Russia's attack towards the heart of Ukraine. You saved your country. You saved all of Europe. And today we are here from across Europe and the world to pay tribute to your bravery. It is you who gave a chance to Ukraine's resistance. And look at all that Ukraine has achieved ever since. On land, you have driven Russia out of half the territories it had captured. At sea, you have pushed back Russia's fleet and reopened a maritime corridor to the world. And in the air, your defenses have become incredibly effective. You are protecting your people from Russian missiles and drones. And in the last week, only you shot down 7 of Russia's fighter jets. All of this seemed impossible on the night when the war began. But time and again, the brave people of Ukraine have surprised the world. So however difficult the situation may look today, let us always remember the road you have walked so far, the resistance against a stronger enemy, and the victories against all odds. And I am confident that Ukraine will keep surprising us all until the last Russian soldier is finally pushed out of your land. Today, we're here to tell you that Europe will continue to stand at your side for as long as it takes, with more financial support, more ammunition, more training for your troops, more air defenses, and more investment in Europe's and Ukraine's defense industries. And there is no better place than this airport to confirm our commitment to Ukraine. This airfield is not only a symbol of your resistance, it is also a symbol of your industry and your ingenuity. It was the home of the largest airplane in the world, Maria, the Dream. 2 years ago, the Russians destroyed the plane, but they could not destroy the dream of a free and prosperous Ukraine that takes its place at the heart of the European family. Today, the dream lives on, and together we will turn it into reality. There will be a free and sovereign Ukraine. There will be peace and prosperity. And there will be Europe. And the Battle of Hostomel Airport will no longer be remembered as the darkest hour of our history, but as the beginning of a new era for Ukraine and for all of Europe. Slava Ukraini!
Слово має прем'єр-міністр Бельгії.
Floor is given to the Prime
Олександр
Minister of
де Крoo.
Belgium, Alexander De Croo.
2 years have passed since Russia started this unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. 2 years of devastation, of loss of life, of trauma and pain. It is hard to completely understand how much Russia's war of aggression has destroyed. And yet, it could have been different. 2 years ago, Russia attempted to take Kiev and to replace President Zelensky's democratically elected government with a puppet regime. And yet, here we stand, shoulder to shoulder, together with you, Mr. President. Your government works. Reforms at EU accession continue. Businesses function, farmers plow their fields. Who could have imagined on the morning of February 24th of 2022 that we would stand here today? How many did not predict back then that Kiev would fall in 3 days, in a week, in 10 days? How wrong they all were. And we must give credit to where credit is due. Here in Hostomel, decisive and crucial battles were fought by brave Ukrainian soldiers. The Russians tried to establish a bridgehead to turn the airport into a logistical hub. They failed. They tried to take down this town and to encircle Kiev. They failed. After almost 1 month of fierce fighting in and around Hostomel, the Russians were defeated and pushed back. All this thanks to the bravery and the fighting skills of the Ukrainian armed forces. And by the end of March, they retreated. The Russian defeat in Hostomel was the beginning of the end of Russia's attempt to capture Kiev. The war unleashed by the Russian Federation against Ukraine has had transformative effects, not only in Ukraine, but European-wide and even globally. Russia has heaped strategic defeat upon strategic defeat. NATO has risen to the occasion and has again become the centerpiece of the collective security here in Europe. Finland and very soon also Sweden will greatly strengthen NATO's eastern flank. The Russian Black Sea Fleet has been decimated. Russian armament has shown to be no match for Western-made weapons. But all of that would not have happened if it had not been for the crucial victories over Russia here in Hostomel, which allowed Ukraine to fight on. So I'm here to pay tribute to the brave defenders and to bow my head to all of who have sacrificed their lives for the freedom of Ukraine and for the freedom of all of us. Slava Ukraini.
Розпочинаємо церемонію вручення державних нагород України. Указами президента України за особистий Герой України з врученням ордена «Золота зірка» Грищенку Ігорю. Данильчуку Максиму Олександровичу, капітану. Долейку Олександру Сергійовичу, підполковнику.
Олександр Сергійович, lieutenant colonel.
Жеведю Іллі Михайловичу, старшому сержанту.
Senior sergeant.
Мельнику Петру Олександровичу,
Петро
капітану
Олександрович,
першого рангу.
Captain first class, an equivalent of colonel.
Шубареву Денису Миколайовичу, старшому сержанту. За особисту мужність і самовіддані дії, виявлені у захисті державного суверенітету та територіальної цілісності України, нагороджено відзнакою президента України Хрест бойових заслуг Дмитришина Олега Володимировича, підполковника.
Дмитришин Олег Володимирович, lieutenant colonel.
Добка Сергія Валерійовича, молодшого сержанта.
The junior sergeant.
Дубину Олену Миколаївну,
Олена
сержанта.
Миколаївна, sergeant.
Ковальського Дмитра
Ковальський
Олеговича,
Дмитро
солдата.
Олегович, soldier. Private.
Нагороджено орденом Богдана Хмельницького другого ступеня,
Хмельницький second degree
Арнаута
is awarded
Ігоря
to
Олександровича,
Арнаут
капітана.
Ігор Олександрович, captain.
Нагороджено орденом Богдана
The order of
Хмельницького
Богдан
третього
Хмельницький
ступеня
third degree
Яська
is awarded
Олександра
to
Миколайовича,
Яську
лейтенанта.
Олександр Миколайович, second lieutenant.
Нагороджено орденом за
Order
мужність
for
другого
courage,
ступеня
second degree,
Овчарука
is
Ігоря
awarded to
Васильовича,
Овчарук Ігор
полковника
Васильович,
служби цивільного захисту.
the colonel of civil defense.
Саєнка Михайла
Саєнко
Миколайовича,
Михайло
молодшого
Миколайович,
лейтенанта.
the junior lieutenant.
Нагороджено орденом
The
за
order
мужність
for
третього
courage,
ступеня
third degree, is
Баранецького
awarded to
Олега Петровича,
Баранецький Олег
полковника
Петрович,
поліції.
the police colonel.
Гарайду Степана
Гарда
Євгенійовича,
Степан Євгенійович,
солдата.
private.
Нагороджено відзнакою президента України
Award of the
іменна
President of Ukraine,
вогнепальна
personal
зброя
firearm
Арестова
is
Ростислава
granted to
Ігоровича,
Aristov
старшого
Rostislav
лейтенанта.
Igorovich, the second lieutenant.
Свинарчука
Свинарчук
Володимира Володимировича, майора.
Володимирович, major.
Скакуна Андрія Юрійовича, майора.
Major.
Целіка Максима Ігоровича,
Максим Ігорович,
підполковника.
Lieutenant Colonel.